After a routine press conference, Rudy Gobert wiped his hands all over the microphones. 2 days later, he tested positive for COVID-19, and within 24 hours, all North American sports, schools, public events, and life as we knew it were canceled. But over in Russia, they had different concerns. They were busy announcing their representative for the 2020 Eurovision Song Contest. Obviously, that was all hyperbole. We had known about the plague for months. From our backwater outpost, we had observed events in Europe going on without audiences, and heard mystical tales of Italian students being given an extra long spring break. For us, it didn't affect our day-to-day lives until the Rudy Gobert incident and the subsequent school cancellations. Of course, as we all know, the 2020 Eurovision Song Contest didn't end up happening, as it was cancelled a week later on March 18th, 2020. By the time of the cancellation, all 41 songs had been released. They're all known, and you can go listen to them right now if you want. Go on, I can wait. Welcome back. If you didn't have any context for them beforehand, you probably thought nothing of them. It's just a group of songs. But to me, they are deeply weird to listen to now. A huge part of the Eurovision Song Contest is the results. Obviously, there's the glory and adulation that comes with getting your country a good result or even winning the whole thing, and the shame that comes with the opposite. But there's also the data nerd side of things. Which country has gotten their second best result ever? Which country has extended a qualification or non-qualification streak? How can these numbers be exploited for political gain? How can we change these results a week after the contest to give an unpopular song a legacy it doesn't deserve? Because of the cancellation, we will never know this about the 2020 contest. There exists a huge asterisk when it comes to trends that extend back into the 2010s, such as Denmark and Georgia's non-qualification streaks. It sucks to not be able to properly analyze these songs' impact within the bigger picture of the contest. So I did it myself. A few years back, I decided to make a mock result for the 2020 contest by digging through results of people's votes on the official Eurovision Song Contest Discord server. This took forever because data entry takes a long time. In the end, the results looked something like this. Bulgaria would have won, Spain would have finished last in the final, and Estonia would have finished last overall. I've come to realize that this isn't really the best system for analyzing results, as it leads very heavily into the confirmation bias and tunnel vision that the Eurovision fanbase online tends to have. So recently, I conducted a new contest with the same formula I used for fan contests I used to run with my friends, where I would fill in the gaps created by people being too lazy to actually vote by using my own personal taste, the number of streams on Spotify, the number of views on YouTube, the official odds on EurovisionWorld.com, the results from my original analysis, and I even used the Discord votes to simulate a televote UMK style. I'm not going to spoil the winners here just yet, because that's what this video is for. The non-qualifiers were pretty expected, being Australia, Austria, Belarus in what would have been their final ever appearance, Croatia, Cyprus, Czechia, Estonia, Finland, Ireland, Latvia, Moldova, North Macedonia, Portugal, San Marino, and Slovenia. North Macedonia would have come last, which is a bit disappointing to me, as Vasil Garvanliev is the only connection between the Eurovision Song Contest and the city of my birth. In the final, the lower places were dominated by the automatic qualifiers, much like in 2021, with the United Kingdom, Spain, and France filling out the bottom three. Germany and 2020 host Netherlands would have finished right in the middle, way better than the eggs they both laid the following year. Georgia split their non-qualification streak exactly in half, while Denmark doesn't change the amount of NQs, but does shorten the streak by 1 year. There's not much else to say about the mid-table, except that in 2022 I heard Sweden's entry move inside of a Kelsey's in Guelph, Ontario. Now we're on to the real question at hand. Who would have won the 2020 Eurovision Song Contest? I have narrowed it down to 6 possibilities. Our first stop brings us to the shores of the Black Sea in Bulgaria. Since debuting in 2005, Bulgaria has had a rough time adjusting to the contest. In their first 9 appearances, they only qualified once, when they finished 5th in 2007. Otherwise, their entries were mostly known for being dated, lazy, or whatever the hell this was. After taking 2 years off to deal with the later stages of the global financial crisis, they returned in 2016 to climb up to 4th place. This was outdone a year later by Christian Kostov and his Tooth Gap, getting the highest points total in contest history up to that point. Unfortunately for him, his record lasted all of 21 seconds as Salvador Sobral absolutely trounced everybody in both the jury and public votes. After Equinox got a mid-table finish in 2018, BNT withdrew in 2019 citing financial constraints. One thing to note about a lot of broadcasters in Eastern Europe is that their budgets are incredibly small. This causes them to rely a lot on artists paying out of pocket, thus allowing wealthy people and organizations to put up the cost of participating so they can do whatever they please. In this case, it was Ligna Group, a company specializing in interior decorating. They put up the funds to send Victoria Georgieva, who had previously finished 6th in Bulgaria's X Factor. One easy comment a lot of people have had about Victoria and her work is that she appears to be a Billie Eilish clone. Now, there is nothing wrong with taking inspiration from another artist, this happens all the time. This is, however, a very thin line, and Victoria absolutely crosses it. She has covered Billie's songs, follows dozens of fan accounts, cited her fandom in interviews.
Who inspires you, by the way? From the... Oh my gosh!
Has met her at least once, and her own original songs sound like this.
To the mirror and back again. Next time maybe I won't see myself.
So I say the comparisons are pretty valid. Now on to the song itself. I didn't like it much back when it first released because I've never been a huge fan of Billie Eilish anyways. But just like the source material, I've grown to appreciate it on a technical achievement level. One of the greatest things we lost with the cancellation was missing out on hearing a live audience reacting to the songs in real time. Just imagine how loud the crowd would have gotten for this moment right here. This song was very high in the odds from its release until the contest's cancellation, and was incredibly popular within the fan community, but 6 years after its release, it only has 6.5 million streams on Spotify and under 4 million views on YouTube. She also got absolutely murdered in the televote a year later with a very similar song, which isn't a very promising sign. My biggest concern with this song is, what if Bulgaria actually won? BNT can barely even afford to participate at all, and I seriously doubt that a furniture company could pony up the estimated 22 million euros it costs to host the show. This is especially relevant as Bulgaria would indeed withdraw 2 years later due to a lack of money, though they are returning this year. Moving from the sunny southeast all the way to the frigid North Atlantic, our next stop is Iceland. In 2018, it was announced that Will Ferrell and fellow London, Ontario survivor Rachel McAdams would be starring in a Netflix movie about the Eurovision Song Contest. Eventually, on June 26, 2020, the Story of Fire saga was released. I have been a long-time critic of this film for its flagrant disregard for any sort of accuracy, bizarre choice of artists to make a cameo, and total fabrication of numerous aspects of the Eurovision Song Contest as a whole. It's not a bad movie per se, just severely misguided. The reason I bring this up is that in the film, Will Ferrell and Rachel McAdams are representing Iceland. Double Trouble would absolutely not qualify for the final, hamster wheel incident notwithstanding. And despite its widespread acclaim from people outside the contest, Husavik would have been firmly planted in the bottom 10, just like its far superior source material. Thankfully, the song that was chosen in our world is far better.
Baby, I can't wait to know. What do you think about things? Believe it, I will always be there. So
Think About Things by Dathi Freyr Pettersson was this year's internet favorite, which is noticeably happening a lot these days. Sometimes they win the show, like Toy or Arcade, or they end up bottom 5 like Snap or Deslicato. I believe that this would end up a lot closer to the former category. It is fun, bouncy, and comical in a way that feels really sincere, unlike most humorous entries tend to be. A notable comparison that comes to mind when talking about Think About Things is the United Kingdom's 1976 winning entry, Save Your Kisses for Me.
Kisses for me, save all your kisses for me. Bye bye, baby, bye bye.
It's got the choreography, the long hair, the questionable fashion, the simple lyrics about fatherhood,
Save them for me, even though you're only 3.
I don't understand you. Oh, you are yet to learn how to speak.
and the surprisingly low energy to match. Though that song predated the creation of the televote by about 20 years, it topped charts in 10 countries, including the United States somehow, and has remained a beloved fixture in British culture ever since. When the contest got cancelled, Iceland was fourth in the odds, having been first before Bulgaria's song release. With a sudden gap in scheduling, broadcasters in several European countries hosted their own mini-contests just for fun. Think About Things won the mini-contest in Austria and Sweden, and finished second in Germany's. The 2020 Sanremo Music Festival is interesting because 3 of my top 20 favorite songs of all time were competing. Menefrego by Achille Lauro finished 6th in the average vote. While Francesco Gabbani's Vice Versa came second. Italy was amongst the first countries to declare lockdown and hold events without capacity. In those trying times, the people of Italy rallied behind one song.
Sai che cosa penso? Che non dovrei pensare. Che se poi penso sono un animale. E se ti penso tu sei un'anima.
Annoyingly, RAI hates data preservation even more than they hate properly managing events, so there is pretty much no surviving footage of Sanremo 2020 anywhere on the internet. That's not a problem in this case, as Diodato did an absolutely stunning solo performance in the Arena di Verona, amidst one of the harshest lockdowns in the world. Fai Rumore is an immensely emotional song for me personally. I have absolutely adored it since the first time I heard it. Italian music has such an amazing emotional power to it in a way that is really hard to explain. Every lyric feels so personally charged, as if the artist has put everything they have into every single line. Diodato is, in my opinion, one of the most technically talented musicians on the planet. I watched the entirety of Il Divin Cadino just to hear his song that he made for the original soundtrack.
Lo so potrà sembrarti un'esagerazione, ma pure quel rigore ha ben segnato un po' la vita.
That movie is an absolute mess of time jumps and self-aggrandization, but that man's voice caused me to sit through the whole thing. It would almost certainly have won the jury, though the televote is a different story. Fai Rumore has enormous numbers, with over 100 million views on YouTube and 80 million streams on Spotify. However, as with all Italian acts, these numbers are coming almost exclusively from Italy itself. And as we all know, you can't vote for your own country at Eurovision. Given what we saw at the arena performance, I am almost certain that the staging would have been absolutely masterful, but I do have one glaring doubt. Backup dancers. Whenever Diodato performs, he is surrounded by an absolute mob of backup dancers. When he was invited to perform Fai Rumore at the 2022 Eurovision Song Contest in Turin, he got drowned out in a completely unnecessary sea of gyrating bodies. Luckily for us, the Eurovision stage can only have up to 6 people on it at a time. But in Diodato's case, it would be for the best if it was just him. I'm thinking of staging much like what Slimane Nebci did in 2024 would be immensely beneficial. We now move back north to the Baltic Sea. Lithuania has always been the little brother of the Baltic states at Eurovision. They got 0 points in their first appearance, then in 2002 did so abysmally that they were barred from competing in the 2003 contest. Those two contests in question were hosted by their brothers in Estonia and Latvia as rewards for them winning the contest. Through the 2000s, they only managed higher than 20th twice. They got 13th in 2001, and in 2006 they managed to finish 6th with this. We Are the Winners is a classic mid-2000s joke entry. Unlike most joke entries of that time, it was actually good, and despite very heavy booing by the crowd in Athens, it is still to this day Lithuania's highest ever finish. The 2010s were a bit kinder, with 6 finals appearances and a 9th place finish in 2016. In 2019, Yuri Viklenko put together a solid performance that brought an otherwise pretty average track to life.
Come on, let your feelings out.
just enough for it to miss out on qualifying by 1 point. In 2020, Lithuania vowed to return stronger, which they absolutely did in the form of the Roop. Vaidotas Veljukevičius had been a member of several boy bands in the 2000s, but in 2010 he gave up on that scene. In 2014 he founded the Roop to make a much more artsy style of music.
Like never before, I'm on my way.
The Roop came to mainstream Lithuanian attention in 2018 when they participated in their national selection and came in third.
Every morning world I still love you. Yes I do. Yes I do.
They returned in 2020 with On Fire and won Pabandomis Naljo in an absolute landslide. The song took a little bit to grow on me, but once it did, I fully bought into the hype. In the Iceland section, I mentioned alternative contests that were held after the cancellation, and the Roop managed to win the German one. Combining YouTube and Spotify gives On Fire a whopping 30 million streams and views, which would have contributed massively to its public score. The song and performance are pretty out there, with comparisons frequently made to Telemoves from 2019. The key difference here is that unlike Telemoves, On Fire is actually good. LRT has stated that had the Roop won, they would have been ready to host. Pabandomis Naljo was hosted in Lithuania's largest arena with almost 20,000 people in attendance. If they had hosted, I know a perfect opening act.
We are the winners of Eurovision. Vote!
Switzerland both hosted and won the first ever Eurovision Song Contest in 1956. In the following 3 decades, they kept a low profile, achieving a few podium finishes, but nothing too special was really accomplished. 3 decades after their first victory, they achieved a Titanic scale result with a certain French Canadian. After Celine, things got rough really fast. Within just 10 years of her victory, the Swiss had fallen so far that their acts were getting more allegations of being prostitutes than points on the scoreboard. The 2000s brought new lows in terms of both results and song quality, with the notable exception of Vanilla Ninja, of course. The 2010s were an even bleaker time, with just 2 finals appearances, one of which being last place in 2011. Then 2019 happened. I won't go too much into the specifics as I want to make a whole other video about this in the future, but what I will say is that their casting choice was the best thing to happen to the country since the invention of secret banking. This gave the Swiss their best finish in 36 years and a new lease on life. They followed it up with something that I was truly pissed at in 2020.
Pourquoi la pluie et les nuages aussi, et les nuages aussi.
I will be extremely blunt about this. I did not like the song at all when it was released. I found it incredibly boring, not helped at all by how lifeless the studio version is. Gion's 2021 entry was infinitely more well-made and exciting, and it truly deserved the podium finish it got. I didn't understand how this one was popular as it was, even after translating the lyrics. Why is it so repetitive? Why is the house burning down? Who likes this? A lot of people did apparently, because it was third in the odds at the time of the cancellation. Even after Guillaume redeemed himself in my eyes a year later, I refused to touch this song for 4 whole years, until he performed it during the semi-final of the 2025 contest in Basel.
Je donne ma langue au chat, répondez.
I still don't like this song very much, but I have gained a lot of respect for Guillaume and his skills as a performer. The jury absolutely ate up Tout l'univers, and Répondez-moi would have easily been on that jury podium in its own right. Those aside, it has pretty low numbers on Spotify and YouTube, which makes me think that a huge televote result wouldn't have been on the cards. In the intro, I mentioned a country who were busy selecting their Eurovision Song Contest entry while the world was actively falling apart. I have been saving them for last because they are the blackest sheep in the whole flock. The Russian Federation and European values go together like the KHL and employing respectable human beings, and this shows in their Eurovision legacy. The acts that they have sent have ranged from bootlickers who are banned from entering the EU, fake lesbians, creeps, pawns, Dima Bilan twice, grandmothers, Netflix actors, and whatever the hell a mummy troll is.
Just keep on smiling, alpine blue.
Their approach is very similar to what Israel is doing right now, where they understood that to gain favor in the eyes of the European public, you need to put on a good show. Say what you want about the artists that both countries have sent to the contest, but you have to admit that they almost always understood the assignment. In 2019, they gave Sergei Lazarev another go-around, and while his song was very technically impressive, it wasn't as strong as his 2016 effort, which I regard as one of the best and most complete performances in Eurovision history.
You're the only one, you're my only one, you're my life, every breath that I'm unforgettable, so unbelievable.
It still finished third just like in 2016, but was nowhere near as popular with the public. So Russian state media got thinking about who could recoup that loss, and they found an absolutely perfect target. Before we get into who I'm actually talking about, first we have to travel back in time to 2007. YouTube had just become a thing 2 years earlier, and one of the earliest viral videos on the Russian side of things was this.
Guitar, 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 jump to my Jaguar. Baby, you have a possibility, play it with me.
Meet Peter Knowledge, an indie musician from Moscow. He's one of the world's first artists to rise to fame on the internet, and in 2010 he used his internet following to win Russia's national selection and go to that year's Eurovision Song Contest in Oslo. Lost and Forgotten may be widely disliked by the fan community, but I find it to be surprisingly charming. While I couldn't find any sources to confirm this, I believe that Knowledge's internet fame is a huge building block for the act that was chosen to represent Russia 10 years later.
My dick is big, my dick is very big, my dick is big, it's big.
Little Big are hard to describe in this limited format. Their work can be categorized as being provocative, political, and absurdist. The term skibbity, which would sweep the youth in the early 2020s, was created by Little Big in 2018. Their reach was so big that even otherwise normal people on this side of the world knew who they were. On March 2nd, 2020, Little Big were announced as Russia's representative. The attention was immediate. Everybody was talking about what absolute mayhem they would unleash upon the stage in Rotterdam. 10 days later, as the world was in the midst of total collapse, the shoe finally dropped.
All you have to do is to be ready for some action now.
It's always surprised me how restrained this song is. For a group as provocative as Little Big, it feels almost safe. This is going to be a really weird comparison, but this kind of reminds me of The Power of Love by Frankie Goes to Hollywood. Frankie's first two singles were extremely sexually and politically out there, and then they followed that up with the safest track of their entire catalog.
The power of love, a force from above.
Another comparison is to frequent collaborator Tommy Cash. He is also known for making extremely avant-garde and at times inappropriate content. But when it came time for him to perform at Eurovision in 2025, he left all the sex and satire behind in favor of whatever the hell this was.
Ciao bella, I'm Tommaso, addicted to tobacco, me like me coffee very importante.
And it worked. Tommy Cash finished in third place and got the second highest televote score behind Israel. And if you look at the numbers, Uno may very well have done the same. The music video has been the most viewed video on the official Eurovision Song Contest YouTube channel for over 4 years now. At the time of this recording, it has recently passed 300 million views, and is also at over 40 million streams on Spotify. If they brought the performance together, then Salvador Sobral's record for, at the time, most televoting points ever would be in serious jeopardy.
Oh no, oh no.
It is now time to review the final results for my mini contest. Iceland, Bulgaria, Lithuania, and Switzerland would all finish in the top 5, within 40 points of each other. This will be Iceland's third time finishing second place, after 1999 and 2009. Bulgaria would get their third podium in 4 participations. Lithuania would more than ensure their best ever result, while Switzerland would actually regress from their form the previous year. That narrows us down to 2 acts, Italy and Russia. Once all the calculus was completed, I came to the conclusion that the winner would be Italy by a landslide of 90 points. Russia would end up in a distant 8th. This is due to the people of Discord not really caring for this one all that much for some reason. For Italy, this would be their third ever victory, after 1964 and 1990. In the run-up to the 2021 contest, I mused that Måneskin would not be Italy's breakthrough. Since returning to the contest in 2011, they had been clambering up the table for a chance to get that elusive third victory, and I thought that they had missed their chance without Diodato. But as an unwise man once said,
everybody want to know what I would do if I didn't win. I guess we'll never know.
Thank you!